Hello, my name is Chris, and I am an adult child of an alcoholic. And what does that mean exactly? Well, a basic definition is that you are a child that grew up in an alcoholic family, specifically where your parent, or both parents, or a legal guardian, meaning somebody that was your primary caregiver, was an alcoholic. And now you're an adult. And you have very specific traits that you share with me and with other adult children of alcoholics that you may or may not be aware of. And so the point of me making this video is to share my knowledge with you about not only my process, and subsequent videos will talk about my process more in depth, but just what it means to be an adult child of an alcoholic, what it means now that you're an adult, how can you change your life to minimize the after effects of being a child of an alcoholic, however long ago that was for you. We see that a lot of people don't discover that they're children of alcoholics, or that they have lingering side effects of the alcoholism, and they're 40 or 50 and they just realize this. So I feel very lucky to have found out now and to move forward. So let me just share some information with you. This video is just going to be an introduction to what it means to be an adult child of an alcoholic, what are the traits that you have as somebody that is and was affected by alcoholism. So the first thing is that as an adult child of an alcoholic, you have very specific traits. And the website, www.adultchildren.org, has a whole list of what's called a laundry list of 14 traits that you will read and you will believe it is your life written down on paper, or in this case the internet, in black and white, because it describes you very well. And that's something that all adult children of alcoholics, or even adult children of traumatic events, possibly of other drugs, or of sexual abuse or something like that, very severe cases of trauma, we have very similar traits. And so there are, of course, going to be some differences, but these tend to be a very finite list. And of course, it's not exhaustive, but it is very interesting to read and to feel like you're reading your own diary. So let me just set up some information for you and kind of describe what it means to be a child of an alcoholic and how it affects you now as an adult child. So as a child of an alcoholic, a scenario that is very often the case in your home, and how it sets you up for adult children of alcoholic, symptoms or traits later in life, can go like this. Let's say your mom is an alcoholic and your dad is not, and you have a younger sibling and you're like 7. Your sibling, their age doesn't really matter, maybe 5, close in age, doesn't matter. You're all sitting down and you're eating dinner at the table, and your mom has been drinking all night since she got home from work, and she now passes out at the table and she falls off of her chair and she makes a mess. Whatever food you were eating, just that she was eating was on her fork, whatever, fell off and just went onto the carpet. You inside are feeling fear. You're feeling anxiety for what just happened. You're scared for your parent because you don't know what's happening, and you want your mom to just get up and be fine and wake up and go back to eating. And your dad sits there and doesn't do anything and doesn't change in, demeanor or anything like that. And you're thinking, I just want to help my mom. I just want to get her up. I just want to figure this out and make sure she's fine. And your dad says, no, it's fine. Leave mom alone. She's fine on the floor. She'll wake up later. It's okay. There's a couple things that are happening in this scenario. First of all, your dad is saying that alcoholism is okay and that it's normal for us and that we don't have to worry about it at all. All of these things are not true. Inside, you're feeling that you're anxious and you're sad for your parent, your mom, and you want her to get up. Those are all normal feelings, but your dad is denying those feelings by telling you that you should not worry about it. Furthermore, your dad is telling you, it'll be fine, just leave it, is telling you, don't think about it, don't have feelings about it. And so you start to negate the feelings that you do have that could be considered normal, but you're being told they're not. And so since your dad is telling you that you're wrong, but you think that he's wrong, you don't end up trusting other people like him or other authority figures. And you don't end up trusting yourself or your own feelings. So you lose trust in pretty much everybody, which is really horrible. And then on top of that, you have a younger sibling who is looking up to you and looking up to your family members, your parents, to provide some sort of stability as well. So you're both being affected by this. Um, and so you're taught not to talk about it, not to trust those feelings, and to not really even acknowledge it exists. How this affects you as an adult is that you continue to have those exact patterns. You don't really know what normal is, and because you don't know what normal is, you don't know how to react. But you are a reactor, naturally. You react to things because that's all you know how to do. And usually the way that you react is black and white. It's either one extreme or the other, and if somebody questions you on that or criticizes you, you get very angry or defensive because you don't want them to know that you don't know how to be an adult, that you don't know how to make these life decisions because you never knew what normal was in the first place. And you never knew what it meant to be happy like a normal family in the first place. So, all of that being said, I want to go through the list now. But I hope that you understand that it's a very oversimplified example, and it helps you set up to know a little bit more about what it means to be an adult child. So if you see any of those traits in people or any of these 14 traits that are listed on the laundry list of the website, please, take some further action if they're not aware of the fact that they act this way, or that you see these behavior traits in them. Let them know, or somehow, do some more research and see if, for whatever reason, they might actually align with this, because I think it's very important for adult children to know that they suffer from these same exact 14 traits. So again, www.adultchildren.org. If I didn't mention it, I said again, but if I didn't mention it, that's the website. You go from the home page, you could click on this link that says laundry list, and these are the 14 traits that all adult children of alcoholics share to some degree or another. 1. We became isolated and afraid of people and authority figures. Of course, because again, we didn't know what normal was. We isolated ourselves because our family self-isolated from the rest of the community, or even from other family members, by saying, you know what? No, we don't want anybody to know about this alcoholism, and we don't want anybody to feel that this is affecting us or this is affecting others. And we're scared of authority figures because those were the family members, the parents, the legal guardians that should have been there to protect us, and they weren't. And so authority figures, yeah, they scare us because we don't know how they're going to act. And a lot of times our alcoholic parents were, oh, I love you, you're the best, you're the apple of my eye, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me, 1 minute, and then the next minute, you shouldn't have been born, or you're the reason why I drink this way, or if you weren't such a bad child, I wouldn't have had this, and this happen. Those kinds of things. And I wouldn't have to drink. It's very painful to hear that, and it's very painful to think about how that affects you as a child moving into adulthood. 2, we became approval seekers. I said that? I did that last time too. We became approval seekers and lost our identity in the process. Yes, we did. It's a great thing to be talented enough to make others feel good about themselves, and that, there are many different jobs where that's a benefit, and you could get paid lots of money to do that. But at the same time, if you're losing yourself, or you never even had enough of yourself to get you through that process, you begin to really realize that you're doing everything else and you're living life for somebody else. I just recently started being a little bit more selfish. I just recently started doing things for myself. And that's because I have realized this. I've realized that I've lost my identity and I need to get myself back on track. We're frightened of angry people and any personal criticism. Again, going back to the fact that our alcoholic parent or parents would judge us and say, you know what, you're the reason why I drink, and yell at us, and throw things at us, or beat us, or just make us feel stupid, or make us think that we are stupid. Those are all really harsh realities, but that's why we have trouble with people that just are angry or just always attacking our, our personal selves, how we identify and define ourselves. 4 is we either become alcoholics, we marry them, or both, or find another compulsive personality, such as a workaholic, to fulfill our sick abandonment needs. My dad was the alcoholic in my life, and he actually became sober, and he stopped smoking as well, and doing any drugs if he was, because I didn't know if he was or not. Pretty sure it was just the alcoholism and cigarettes. But he basically got rid of all of that, and he became very healthy, but he is a workaholic, and I was an alcoholic too. I struggled with my alcoholism at a younger age than probably he did. And I ended up being a workaholic too, to fulfill that hole. I work so often and I volunteer so often that I feel like I do lose parts of myself in that process, and so I'm trying not to do that. It's very difficult for me though, because working means money, and money means I feel more secure. I feel more in control of my life. And control is another issue that adult children of alcoholics struggle with. Number 5 is we live life from a viewpoint of victims, and we are attracted by that weakness in our love and friendship relationships. I can just say that the reason why I feel like a victim in pretty much any situation in which there's an argument is because while we're arguing, I go back to that time in my head when my dad, would be hurting me, and I would be a victim. He'd be physically hurting me, or mentally, emotionally hurting me, or hurting my mom or my brother. And the reason why I go back there is because it's just so traumatic, and I feel like every single time when there's that tension between myself and another person, or myself and a couple of other people, in an argument, in disagreement, whatever you may want to call it, I go back to that place and I feel that I just can't win, that I am the victim no matter what. And all I ask for people to do, unconsciously of course, or not out loud because I'm not able to communicate that very well, is that I want them to listen to me, and I want them to believe me, and I want them to think that my opinion matters. And the reason why I think all of that is not because I'm a selfish asshole, but because I've never experienced that. I've never had a parent say, you know what, you could be right. Or, not that I haven't. My mom has done a great job doing that, but I didn't get that at a young age. And, or to say, I don't agree with you, but I could see your point. That's really what, I want to be validated as having real thoughts and real feelings. And I feel like a lot of times, if you come from an alcoholic background, that's not the case. You don't have that. I guess, benefit in your life. We have an overdeveloped sense of responsibility, and it's easier for us to be concerned with what others want or need rather than ourselves, and this enables us not to look too closely at our own faults, etc. Of course, we don't want to know that we're faulty, because even though we don't want it to be shown to everybody and we don't want to acknowledge it out loud, we do know that. And that, I'll connect to a few other points down the line in regards to that and why that is. But we have an overdeveloped sense of responsibility because we are old souls, to say the least. We are born, and when we are born into an adult life. And that's why they call us adult children, because we never had the experience of having a childhood. And that childhood that we might have experienced has disappeared. And if we did experience it, it was probably too short-lived. And so I personally feel like I've been an adult and I've been very responsible for such a long time that I'm sick of it. And it's very hard to say that I don't want to be an adult anymore. I just want to retire. Or I just want to be allowed to be the child I didn't feel like I was, or that I could have been. And so it's hard to be not even 30 and be completely over being an adult. And so that's just because we took responsibility in the situations with the adults that were alcoholics. We tried to control the situation. We wanted to stop it from happening, and so we thought that somehow we can control it. And even though we never could, we never gave up. And for that reason, I'm glad, because I have become a persistent person and I become somebody that tries regardless of facing a brick wall most of the time. Sometimes I'll give up. Um, but it's just hard to say, that that's a beneficial trait, to be overly responsible and to feel very anxious about everything all the time. And that goes back to control again, trying to be in control of our lives as much as possible. Number 7 is that we feel guilt feelings when we stand up for ourselves instead of giving in to others. That's true. I give in to people all the time, and even though I feel like my opinion might really be validated, or somebody might be able to validate it, or it is a valid point, I give in to other people and I let them win. And so, when Noemi, one of my friends, says that, I'm a hopeless romantic and that I do follow my heart because I move to where people are so that I can have a relationship with them if I'm romantically interested in them or romantically involved already. While that is true, I feel that I am a romantic, a hopeless romantic. I would do that for somebody I love. I'm also doing it because they won't move. I'm also doing it because they were too stubborn to want to compromise. And so I give up and say, if I want to have a relationship with you, I have to do what you want. And that's just one example. There's many other examples that I could give where I felt like I have given in to somebody. And it's frustrating because I don't think I should have to have the ultimatum of, if you don't do this for me, then we're not good enough friends, we're not good enough family members, we're not good enough lovers or partners. It's just frustrating to be set up with ultimatums and to deal with people that are more stubborn than you because you give in so easily. And I'm pretty stubborn, but I give in. We became addicted to excitement. Very true, to say the least. I have found myself in situations where I don't know why I'm arguing with somebody. I'm just arguing with them to argue with them. I'm arguing with them to make a point, even though my point is the same as theirs. And I think that it is because I am addicted to excitement. We got used to that tumultuous, inconsistent relationship with our parents, with our family members. We didn't know what was going to happen when we came home from school. So that made our lives, normal. That's what normal was to us. And so if we are living a boring, sedentary life where we have 2.5 kids, a dog, and a house with a white picket fence, we're going to want to tear it up sometimes, and we're going to want to make our own drama. And I've realized that I do this, that with people that I really care about. I do fight with them for no reason, and it's because I consider my life boring at those times, and I really want to have the married with kids life. I really want to be sedentary. I really want to have a job and be stable, but at the same time, unconsciously, somehow, I feel that that is not normal, and so it makes me anxious, and so I want to make things more difficult. And I'm working really hard on not doing that, but it is very, very difficult to even identify when it happens. Now it's easier because I'm aware of it, but it still happens without my knowledge until later I realize. We confuse love and pity and tend to love people we can pity and rescue. While I don't have this issue anymore, I feel like I used to. I feel like I used to be really attracted to or want to date people that had some really messed up issues, and we try to fix them, and because we don't want to fix ourselves, because we want to avoid taking a look at ourselves. I'm not sure exactly, what it is for me. It might be a combination of things, but I used to do this. I feel like now I don't want this either, but I feel like now maybe people date me because they want to pity me and because I make them feel sad about my life and my situation. I don't want anybody to feel that sad for me that they have to date me or they have to be my friend. I want somebody to be my friend or to date me because of who I am as a person and that I could be a decent person. And so I'm not trying to attract people that are taking pity on me. We have stuffed our feelings from our traumatic childhoods and have lost the ability to feel or express our feelings because it hurts so much. It's also called denial. This is true. Sometimes when I'm just really angry and upset, I go numb and I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to appease people anymore. I just say, F it, do whatever you want. And sometimes I hurt people by saying that, and sometimes I hurt people by not empathizing or sympathizing or feeling anything for what they're saying. I just lose my ability to feel in that moment. And I've seen people tell me, I've heard people tell me, and I've seen people act as if I were crazy during those times because I lose my ability to really understand where that person is coming from. And I just say, you know what, F you. And that's really hard for me to accept. It's hard for me to accept that I do that. I know that I do that. And I know that other adult children of alcoholics do that. But it's just very hard to pause and really realize what's going on there. Why is that happening? We can't express our feelings because we weren't given the tools. We've never done this before. We've never interacted with people in this way before where we talk about feelings. That didn't happen in our family, and it's definitely not going to happen anytime soon. You have to practice, and that's very difficult for me, I have to admit. Number 11 is we judge ourselves harshly and have a low sense of self-esteem, very low. I mentioned earlier that I wanted to talk to a point about, enabling us not looking at ourselves, is because even though we don't want to look at ourselves, we do know we have a horrible low self-esteem because we do know that we're horrible people. I mean, that's what we think. We think we're horrible people. We think that we are really messed up for not being able to stop the alcoholism from childhood. Even though that was something that was out of our control, we feel we are very responsible. We feel we're responsible of what happened to our family after alcoholism. Even if things got better, there may have still been issues. And those issues, no matter what they were always our fault. So yeah, there's a lot of low self-esteem for a lot of reasons. And also because we couldn't trust ourselves and our feelings, and we can't talk to people. We don't have those tools. So there's a whole bunch of things that go into that. I personally, I don't feel very good about myself. And so maybe I unconsciously make my life unsuccessful because I feel that way about myself. I feel that I won't have a career and that I won't have a family and that I won't have what I want out of, financially stable, children, partner. I feel that all of those things are things that I want, but maybe so consciously, but unconsciously, I think that I'm a horrible person. I don't deserve those things, and that's why I can't achieve them. Maybe my thoughts affect my actions, and I stop myself from reaching my own goals. I don't know if that's true. It's something I've thought about. It's something that I hope is not true, but I could definitely see why it would be, if that were the case. We are dependent personalities who are terrified of abandonment, and we will do anything to hold on to a relationship in order to not experience painful abandonment feelings, which we receive from living with sick people who never were there for us emotionally. Yes. Again, very tumultuous relationships with our family members because people were always high-strung and or drunk and or passed out. And so, of course, from that and not having the support that we needed from parents because everybody was focused on the alcoholism or everybody was focused on trying to get rid of the alcoholism or support the alcoholic in getting better, they didn't realize the children were kind of sitting there asking for their hand-me-downs. And the children are what need it most. And so we felt abandoned by our own parents, and we felt that is the worst feeling. It's the worst feeling to not be cared for by somebody that should be providing you primary care. It feels bad to not have the basics, not have food or not have shelter, not have emotional love and support. And if you have experienced that in any way, as an adult, you feel like pretty much anything where you feel that your needs aren't being met is abandonment. And that's not true. That's an extreme case. That would be an extreme rule. But it's hard. I don't want to readily admit that I have abandonment issues, but I do. And I denied it for a really long time. And it's not like if somebody leaves me for a day, I'm going to get really terrified and anxious. It's more about I don't trust people to be in my life forever. because I've been continuously disappointed. And even though I continue to let people in, I continue to also be disappointed. And what my adult child of an alcoholic mindset tells me to do is to not let people in and just to not give them a chance. And that would be easy. It would be an easy way for me to just survive and be on my own. I wouldn't be happy because I would never let anybody in and nobody would ever know who I was. So instead, I made a compromise with myself and I said, I'll let some people in. And those people that I let in need to really, really support me. Otherwise, I'm not going to like them. And so, or I'm not going to see a need for them in my life. And so I let people in, and then when they disappoint me, then that's when I'm really on edge. And that's really if I have to decide if they're worth it, they're worth being in my life. Which is very extreme. I believe it's very extreme. One person upsets you slightly and you don't want them in your life anymore. I give people multiple chances, and I feel like I am disappointed a lot of the time, but I think I also have really high expectations because I'm a better friend than my own friends are sometimes to me. So, and that's of course an opinion, but I've also heard multiple other people say that I would be there for them no matter what, regardless of the fact, that they might be thousands of miles away. And I've also heard that, they know that I would be there for other people, even if those other people weren't there for me. So I know that I'm a good supporter in that way, for friends, for family, for my partner. But I can't rely on them to be that good for me. Alcoholism is a family disease, and we became para-alcoholics and took on the characteristics of that disease, even though we did not pick up the drink. True. I did pick up the drink, and I did have that experience, but alcoholism affects the entire family. It is not just for alcoholics that, they have problems. Everybody's affected, and sometimes it's hard to really realize what exactly, it was that affected you or how it affected you, but this is true. And then the last one is para-alcoholics are reactors rather than actors. So we react to things because we don't know how to act upon things. We don't know what's normal, again, and therefore we can't make a rational decision. Instead, we make an irrational decision, and then we regret it later, and we react to something instead of acting upon it. So anyway, that is the list of 14 traits of an adult child of an alcoholic. I hope that you have learned something and that you might be able to tell a friend about this or talk about it at dinner to get other people to talk about it. 20% at least of all children who grow up to be adults are adult children of alcoholics. So it's a large majority. It's 1 out of 5. Not a majority, it's a large minority. 1 out of 5. It's a good percentage. Means that you probably know somebody that is an adult child of an alcoholic. They might not know about these traits. They might not know that their life has affected them in this way. Their experiences have affected them in this way. I'll just leave by saying that I personally have just started my struggle with this. I just became knowledgeable of this. And while I knew my dad was an alcoholic and I knew they had problems, I had forgiven my father for all of the actions that he had done. I forgave him for, beating myself and my brother and my mother. I forgave him for making me feel stupid and insecure at times when I was young. I forgive him for, emotionally and mentally abusing us as children, and my mother as well. The problem is I forgave the actions and the behaviors, but I didn't forgive more or less the outcomes, the lasting results, the side effects that I'm stuck with today. And I didn't tell him to his face that I forgave him. So it's easy for me to say, I forgave you part of the way, but not the whole way. And that's because it still affects me, and I didn't know it was affecting me anymore. So my point is that I hope that you or somebody you know will really read about this, really get to know more about it, and then make the decision if continuing with therapy or self-help books, self-development books, as some people like to call them, reading up on the internet, whatever, if that's going to help you to be more knowledgeable about who you are and change your patterns, your behaviors, your compulsions that come out of this as, a sick side effect, please do. I totally encourage you to. I had a lot of denial going into this, and I've come out crying most of the time and wanting to change. And I think that's the only thing I could do. And I've been in dark places before, and I want you to not be there. I don't want anybody to be affected by this the way that I was. And I want you to realize that you can really do this for yourself if you want to. So my upcoming videos will talk about each one of these steps more in depth, give a little bit of background story to how I've been affected by them, and then also to talk about any other experiences that I might have heard about that relates to it, and just create some discussion with you and anybody that you might know who is an adult child of an alcoholic. Until next time.